It's Lynn from Paris, and you're listening to the Rock Sound Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Rock Sound Podcast. I'm Will Cross, junior editor at the magazine. Joining me as always, Tamsin Wills.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good week, yeah?
I've had a brilliant week. I was very concerned I was going to have no voice again because I went to see the Rocket Summer on Monday and I had the absolute time of my life.
Nice, very nice. And Jack Rogers, hello.
Hello, Will.
All right?
Oh yeah, it's all getting to me a bit.
Yeah, long day. Emotional day.
Long life.
Amazing. So last week we had Mr. Remington Leith, the Palais Royale on the show. Absolutely brilliant. Alongside Mr. Dan Lampton and Kyle Faisal of Real Friends. Absolutely brilliant. Subscribe to us on iTunes, follow us on SoundCloud. But this week we have got the return of the Toxic Twins, Mr. Ben Bruce, Mr. Danny Worsnop on one call. Ask Alexandria's return, absolutely amazing. So buckle in, hold tight. It's pretty insane. And also our very first Rock Sound Hall of Fame interview for the podcast, which is with Jordan and Chad from Newfound Glory on their classic album, Sticks and Stones. Absolutely amazing. So loads going on. But first, Tamsin in the news.
Fall Out Boy have unveiled the track listing for Mania. Black Veil Brides have dropped a new track to When They Call My Name. Waterparks have dropped the video for Blonde. As It Is have dropped the video for No Way Out. State Champs' Around the World and Back documentary is now available to watch online. Lynn Gunn and Corey Taylor will guest on Tonight Alive's Underworld, which is ridiculous. Sleeping with Sirens have announced a US tour taking place in December, and 1OK Rock will release a live DVD on January 17th. Head to rocksound.tv to find out more about all of that.
Lovely stuff. So, Ask Alexandria returning with AA5, self-titled in December. Man, like when I talk about chats to do for this podcast, this was unlike any other. So I had a conference call with Danny and Ben, and just like, obviously, you know, being a long-term fan of that band, I kind of knew what to expect, and it's just Ask Alexandria are back, man, just in all ways. So yeah, strap in. I'm going to let them do the talking. Parental advisory. There's a lot of swearing in there, so buckle up. Here we go. Ask Alexandria, Mr. Ben Bruce, Mr. Danny Worsnop. So, obviously, it's a huge, huge moment. You know, obviously, Danny, your return to the band, you know, the restoring of the original lineup. How was it going into the writing process for the album? Were there a lot of nerves, or did things kind of flow naturally? How did it kind of come together?
On my end, it was super easy. You know, I mean, I feel like a lot of the times you get told, okay, this is when you're going in the studio, you have this amount of time, make an album. And quite oftentimes, things get rushed. Things are forced, and you're left with the outcome, and you try your best to get to the best possible outcome you can. But this time, we had no time constraints, no limits, no one telling us what we had to write, what we didn't have to write, and it was supernatural. Like nothing felt forced. If at any time something wasn't working, we didn't sit around for hours trying to make it work. It was just like, well, this doesn't work. Let's move on and try something else. And for me, personally speaking, it was supernatural, super easy, and it felt much like when we recorded Stand Up and Scream, because, again, back then we had no time constraints. We didn't know, really, we had no guidelines, you know. We just did what we felt like doing, and it was exactly like that with this record.
I think if we'd have jumped straight into it instead of touring, there might have been kind of a learning curve. But I think because, I mean, keep in mind, this happened like 7 months after us getting back together. So there was a lot of time of us getting used to each other again and playing together. So that took away a lot of any learning curve with writing together again. And then, I mean, Ben had already kind of had a couple ideas of songs before I'd even shown it back in the picture. But once I did, it was we used a couple things, and then he wrote just a lot of new stuff all very quickly. I mean, I was traveling around doing stuff at the time, and he was sending me stuff, and I wanted to approach it in a new way than I had before, or that I used to, and approach it as a songwriter rather than as the singer of a band who's recording an album. I wanted to approach it like I would if I was writing a song just to pitch out to other people, because I feel like that's when I do my best work. So I gave stuff a brief listen to make sure that, you know, I liked it and it was something I could vibe with. And then when we got into the studio, a lot of the times that would be when I heard the full song for the first time. And we'd sit and we'd play it. And then when I had an idea, we'd just run. Well, it'd take about 20 minutes to get that first line. And after that, 30 minutes later, the song's done.
I mean, in terms of From Death to Destiny, obviously that was quite a famously fragmented recording process. I know, you worked in multiple studios and that sort of thing.
So like that's one way to describe it.
Yeah, famously fragmented. That might have been a better name for the album.
So with that in mind, there was this.
Where were you 4 years ago, dude?
Yeah.
With that in mind, like, how was it a much more positive experience then? It sounds like it was much more natural, like you say, and just kind of, it sounded like everything was much more, it flowed in a much more nicer, easier way. Would you say that's true with this album?
Absolutely.
Well, what's weird is Danny never went missing. There were never any physical or verbal altercations. We weren't angry.
Not one drug dealer showed up.
Yeah, it was weird. Well, that wasn't through lack of trying. It was just.
Yeah, it was a very different experience. From Death to Destiny, however much I love that album and what came out of it, it was we were caught in a spiral, but we had no idea. It was only after everything fell apart that we were like, shit, we really should have done something about it then, because like that was But at that point, it was the point of no return, and we just kept pushing through. And from there was no coming back. It was from that point on, I feel like there was an inevitable just fallout from everything that had been happening. And if we would have,
like cattle, we were just fed and fed and fed what we needed to be fed in order to get the end product. You know, by multiple people on the outside. We weren't actually people. Doing this because we loved it. You know, obviously we did, but we've been pushed to breaking point and forced to continue. You know, and I often say this in interviews, you know, what would you have done differently? And the answer is simple. You know, I would have taken a year or two off. We wouldn't have pushed and pushed to the point where we snapped. And it wasn't us necessarily pushing each other. It was everyone on the outside pushing in. And eventually, you know, like Danny said, it was inevitable. There was only one outcome that was going to come from that, and it happened, and the world watched it.
We were put in a position where we kept being told that time off is death. If we took a break, if we took a month off where we would have been touring, our career's done. Like, we were told these things, and we were young, and we thought these people knew what they were talking about, so we believed them. And it was just people that they didn't see five young guys who came in this for all the right reasons and are struggling. They saw dollar signs and they saw the potential of them not getting paid for a month. So they just worked us into the ground, and there was really we believed everything they told us. And that, as Ben said, a break was what we needed, but no one was going to let that happen.
You know, and fast forward 4 years later, you know, 20 to 100 pounds of extra weight later, slightly more. And now we actually know what we're doing, or we like to think we know what we're doing.
I was going to say, they're the famous last words of men who just make massive mistakes.
Yeah. Shit.
They're the famous last words of two guys who just wrote their least successful album of all time but don't know it yet.
So was there an element of real therapy
this is all
then?
fuel for the next album.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we'll go back into the next album hating each other with massive drug problems, and we'll be right back to normal.
Yeah.
So was there an element of therapy then in putting these songs together? And after coming out of all that stuff and, you know, like you say, just being prodded by people on the outside of the band, Was there a real therapy in, you know, working together again and putting these songs together? Because obviously across the album lyrically, you know, you guys go to some very brutally honest places. I mean, was that very therapeutic in that sense as well?
Yeah, songwriting has become my therapy for the last few years. I mean, I did it with my whole last record.
Mine.
Yeah, Postmates. Yeah, I mean, this for me, especially coming right off the back of making that record, it was just a continuation of this new headspace I found, and I came in with just an opportunity to just air out all of my dirty laundry and everything that's gone on between us. And I mean, that's where the album picks up. Alone in a Room is it's me making my last record or just after that, and it's the looking back on it to where we couldn't be in this place together now. We couldn't be making this album until I had sat down and kind of faced myself, and then Into the Fire is the kind of doing the asking thing again and realizing that, like, if I've got these flaws in myself, I have these demons, and I can either be depressed about them and turn to drugs and turn to alcohol and turn to doing all these fucked up things I used to do, or I could use them in a positive way and make them work for me and lean into the crazy. And that's what we did with this record. And then Hopelessly Hopeful is next, and that's just about hoping that we were right.
Yeah, because as we, you know, with songs like you say, songs you mentioned like Hopelessly Hopeful, Into the Fire, and Where Did It Go as well. When Where Does It Go comes in, were some of the things you spoke about on that song, were they quite hard to address, or was it because you were given this freedom, you know, to do these things musically that you wanted to do and kind of address these topics? Did you feel, did it not feel too daunting in that sense, and that you felt that you could do exactly what you wanted and say exactly what you wanted?
Well, I've never been one to shy my words.
That's very true, yeah.
But at the same time, yes, it's an uncomfortable song to write. Every single song on the album is uncomfortable to write and uncomfortable to say, but that's how I write. If I've kind of reached a point where if I'm not uncomfortable when I'm writing something, then it's not good enough. I should be uncomfortable. I should be pushing myself into a place where I feel like I shouldn't be saying this, or I don't want people to know this about me, or I don't want to know this about me. If I'm not in that place, it's not the right song. Like, a song should be open heart surgery. It should be scary to write it, because it should be you divulging things about yourself that you don't want to talk about or you don't want to face, and that's what makes the best songs. So yeah, it was a difficult song to write, but at the same time, I said a lot of. Where Did It Go is obviously, it's much more jovial. Like, it's very tongue-in-cheek, but there's a lot of truth to it. There's a lot of dick swinging, but there's a lot of truth to it too.
Yeah, 100%. Because as well, you know, in terms of the kind of musical side of that as well, I'm feeling much more liberated in what you could do musically. You know, you got songs like Under Denver and, of course, Empire as well, which is completely different for the band. Total curveball. I mean,
that's how it feels, huh?
Yeah, like, where did that kind of come from in this year? Did it just get to the point where it felt like you wanted to see all different kinds of new things you could do within the Asking sound?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you how it started, because Ben had written this song, and he sent it to me, and I'd started writing a chorus when we were overseas. I think we were in Sweden, and no, we were in Denmark. I remember now. So we started doing this song, and it was so completely different. And Ben had been kind of formulating this idea where he was like, dude, how about going in to mix this? We get like a hip hop guy to mix it, because those mixes are always so good. And then we were looking into that, and then it was like, well, why don't we ask? And at the time it was, why don't we ask Machine Gun Kelly to rap on this song? And it like, everyone was kind of like, well, I don't know. And Ben's like, no, like, we're already doing weird stuff. Like, fuck it. So, you know, I talked to Kels, and he said, yeah, he was super stoked. Didn't hear from him again for 6 months. That guy is impossible to keep in touch with. And then I saw him again. He's like, yeah, dude, send me the song. I was like, I already sent it to you 4 times, but okay. So send it to me again, impossible to chase down. We're getting close to the wire. So I ask Yellow Wolf to do it, and he's like, yeah, totally. He's just as hard, if not harder, than MGK to keep in touch with. So we were like in the studio, and I'm like trying to get in touch, trying to get these guys on the phone, like, hey, record this fucking song. And then we'd been listening to Binks, we'd been listening to Chandler, and it was like, okay, if we can't get one of these big names, we can't go for a middle of the road. We can't go for anything like that. We've got to find like a new act, like a breaking act. And if we're not going to have someone who's going to help,
worthy of pushing.
Yeah, because if it's not someone who's going to bring a whole bunch of stuff from their end, we should reverse the tables and give someone an opportunity instead of it being like someone who's not really going to bring anything to the table and not really going to gain anything from it. There should always be that kind of shared camaraderie within the industry. So, and he's stupid talented, and he did it in what?
That's like, the funny thing too. When we like said, okay, let's try out this Binks kid, because Danny had introduced me, not personally, but to his music a few months prior, and I like a lot of rap music, and so I was listening to it, and I was like, yeah, this kid's really good. And I think everyone...
you said that in like the whole whitest non-hip-hop guy ever. You know me, I like me some of that hippity-hop.
I dabble in the rap game. Dude, I'm wearing dad shorts and some plimsolls right now, so I'm as far...
Dude,
from cool.
Dude, I'm wearing cargo shorts, putting a bed together. We are domesticated, dude.
We have no business entering the rap game, but you know what?
And see, homebody.
No one wanted to do it with us. We were like, fuck it, let's hit up Big. The funny thing about Binks to me is, like, once we had decided, okay, let's give this kid a shot, everyone in our team, not necessarily the band guys, maybe them a little bit, but mainly like label and management, they were a bit apprehensive. They were like, guys, this song is so off the wall. To make it work, you need a big name behind it, or else it's not going to work. And we were like, look, just give this kid a shot. And the thing is, as soon as we got his first draft back, he sang into a microphone on a computer. We showed it to everyone, and we went, holy shit, this kid's amazing. He is the person for this song. It doesn't matter that no one knows who he is, because they will after they hear this song.
In 3 years, there's going to be some hard rock band who ask him to sing on a song, and he'll say yes, and they won't be able to get in touch with him. And then there'll ask someone else, and they'll get in touch with them either. Thankfully, we got in under the wire. We got in first. We got in before that.
No, it'll be us again on the next record. Hey, Binks,
I just know I'm waiting any day now. I'm going to get a text from Kels and he's like, yo, when do you need this song by?
Yeah, right. No, he's too busy being famous.
Yeah, he's like an actual celebrity now.
We're still trying.
So in terms of that as well, do you think, especially in this day and age as well, when everything's so instant, and like DJs and people from the hip-hop world, can just drop songs, straight away as soon as they're done, do you think that it's important, like, 'cause something that really stands out about this album is that it spans so many different genres, like you can't slap a label on it at all. Do you think that's really important? Do you think you need to have that sense of uniqueness and kind of, that kind of willingness to break down genres and barriers in terms of music in this day and age?
The funniest thing about you saying that is we didn't actually want to release an album. We hummed and hawed for a long time. We were like, let's just release singles. We'll release a new song every month. And at the end of the 12 months, after we've released 12 songs or whatever, it's part of a collection rather than an album. We were trying to because I feel like our genre in particular is very stifled, but it's been stuck in the same place for a long time. And it's like, look, all these hip hop, rap, pop artists, they're all just throwing out singles, like you said. It's like, why can't we do the same thing? But unfortunately, I just don't think our genre in this
ready for
that yet. And everyone just got afraid and chickened out. No, we have to follow the old formula. So when you listen to this album, it is very much so how you just said, because that was our intention. We wanted to release just a collection of really, really good songs, which is why they don't necessarily all sound like they belong together, but they all have their own place in music.
I mean, in terms of Eve as well, you know, I'd say maybe that's the heaviest moment on the album.
That was the first one we did.
Oh, right. Okay, cool. So, yeah, take me inside that. So that kicked off the recording sessions then, or the writing sessions?
Yes, well, the album was originally going to be called Eve.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was actually. And then I don't really know where that came from. I think that almost came from us. Like you said in the beginning of this, you know, this is the first time Danny had come back to asking, and we've been in the studio again since 2012, 13. I think we almost took it on ourselves, almost like we were daring each other, like, you know, how heavy can we still go? Do we still have it? And, you know...
Turned out we didn't. Yeah, that song was basically the story of Eve in the Garden of Eden, and it was the conversation between... It was the snake talking to her, kind of pushing her and being the kind of the devil on the shoulder, which kind of represents where we were when we were being told all this stuff and when we were being pushed into the complete downfall of who we were. They keep coming under this illusion that we're in this business to make them money. We don't fucking care about them. They could drop dead tomorrow. I'm like, we don't fucking know these people and we don't care about these people. They're the ones who've been bleeding us dry for the last 10 years of our lives. Like, I don't give a fuck if their bank account, if they make barely $1 billion that year because we decided to release an album in December. Fuck them.
There are moments on the album that actually feel very hopeful. You know, it's songs like I Am One, especially, and of course, you know, we've already spoken about Empire. Like, in that sense, does that hint at a very bright future for Ask Alexandria?
I Am One is me saying that I'm God.
So the short answer is
That's
yes.
what it is. I am the Father and the Son. I'm saying that I am God. So, I mean, the future's pretty hopeful if I've got an outlook like that. I mean, I'm not one to just offend people, but fuck them. All of them. Just fuck them to death.
Yeah, just absolute madness. I mean, as I say, Asking are back, you know, those two are back together. Outrageous stuff. Tamsin, what are you saying?
I mean, how you managed to get any sensible answers out of that interview, like, I have no idea. The whole thing is just ridiculous. But you know what? It's actually, it's nice to hear an interview where they are just pissing about. Because obviously... They even said, like, there's not actually been any drama between them for years, but it's just been stuff that, you know, the internet likes to gossip about. But, you know, for a while, you know, the picture was painted that they hated each other, that they, you know, just, like, didn't want to speak to each other again, never want to see each other again, whatever. But to hear them kind of just being back to Danny and Ben is quite nice. But it's interesting as well to hear, like, the actual reasons why things broke down and how they built it back up and, you know, started writing music together again. So it's really cool.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Yeah, I mean, the self-titled album is an absolute banger. There's a song we talk about on the interview, of course, Empire, which is going to blow all your minds when you hear it. Crazy stuff. Jack?
Yeah, Empire's pretty wild. The biggest thing is the fact that, like, which I said when I said that I was probably most excited for this album, is that it's probably going to go back to Stand Up and Scream days. And even though it's not in terms of sound or anything, in terms of, like, attitudes, where it's, like, no guidelines going in, where they're just doing things as they wanted. And when they were talking about From Death to Destiny, which did feel like a very strange departure, and that was the thing which kind of broke them down, that it's like they were caught in a style and didn't have a chance to, like, work with it because, like, they were not allowed to take a break. So it's quite refreshing, like, hearing them, as Tamsin said, being playful, and, like, it's like two Labradors, just like where you're trying to take a picture of them, but then they get distracted by the squirrel, and then, like, by each other, and then just fall over each other. It's really nice to hear things back on track, and I think people are going to be really surprised by this album, but also really embrace it. It's a massive step for the band.
Definitely, yeah. And just brilliant stuff. And stay tuned for the end of this podcast. There was a lot of stuff I had to cut out of that interview. Maybe we'll run the whole thing online. We'll see. But we have a very special outtake from it. So stay tuned.
Probably my favourite part of the whole podcast. We haven't even got the whole way through it yet, but just hearing it is a highlight of my week.
Amazing. So stay tuned for that. Jack?
List of questions. Whoa. Liz Cotton and Libby 80 Days both asked this. If you wanted any two bands to collab, who would they be and why? And I think mine, I'd love to hear modern day Panic at the Disco with like Brendan when he's very croony, but with someone like 4 Years Strong, where it's kind of like, because the things about 4 Years Strong as it is like now that they're back into their heavy ways, is that they've always had this kind of soulful feel to what they do, like with all the energy. I'd love to hear kind of like a lounge feel come in. And Brendan also likes to mosh himself, as went like on Vine when he used to do Positive Hardcore Thursdays or whatever it was. Like, dude's got a scream on him. Like he can. I'd love to see Brendan Urie throw down. I'd love that. So yeah, I think that's quite, and I think that's quite on brand for me. That duo as well.
That is quite on brand.
Yeah,
for you.
very
That's
JR.
on brand.
Yeah.
Well, on the subject of that, it was the other day. I was waiting for a falafel wrap in Camden.
Lovely.
After the Palo Real show, while playing the Sleep On It album through my Fall Out Boy fidget spinner. And I think that's kind of like
that is your personal brand.
I think that's like gravestone stuff.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw my choice back to our launch episode when it was first kind of hinted at. I want Broco and Champs to get in the studio together and just get over and done with. I want them all dressed as cowboys. I want them swinging their t-shirts around their heads. I want the biggest, boppiest chorus you could ever create in your life. And I feel like Don Broco and State Champs are the ones capable of doing that.
Yeah, Damiani has to be on that album. For me, it's going to be Architects and Parkway Drive. I want Sam Carter and Winston McCool, two best screamers in the game, are just ripping a track to absolute shreds. Those guys of that caliber, they need to do something together and just absolutely annihilate a track. Other shout would be Stand Atlantic, working on their debut album. They need to get Jason Butler on there to lay down some screams. That would be sick.
Or get Black Bear in.
Or Black Bear, yeah.
Because that would be totally my vibe. Just saying.
Get both, yeah.
Yeah, both would be great.
That would be sick, yeah.
Sick. It's KSL okay. Okay. Do you think modern day music will be remembered as classics? Also, with I am doing the laughing emoji face, like trust the others. I am.
He is doing it.
Yeah. With that question, I think in our scene, as it is now, maybe not. I think that the songs which will be remembered are the ones which are remembered now. So for classics like Panic and Fall Out Boy, like Sugar We're Going Down and I Write Sins.
I think it might be a case of like there are songs that are gonna stand the test of time, and as I said, like Fall Out Boy, Panic, All Time Low, the bands that we've grown up listening to are gonna soundtrack the next sort of teenagers, adults coming through. Yeah. Which is amazing. I
mean, like you mentioned those bands, we saw Palais Royale the other night, their debut London show, and they covered Teenagers out of Nowhere by My Chem, and that felt massive. I mean, that felt like the whole room, front to back knew it. That felt like a classic, you know? So I think, even people who aren't particularly into rock music, sort of know that song or Welcome to the Black Parade, and so it is possible, I think.
Yeah.
We'll just have to wait and see, won't we?
That's it. Time will tell, I guess.
And finally, Rorona_Chan asks what our favourite 1OK rock song is and why. And mine is One Way Ticket, because I think that it's one of the best pop songs which is not huge. Basically, it's got everything which modern day pop represents, like the Kygo synths at the end, a building chorus, like a sentiment. It's almost like it's a perfect pop song, but that people don't realise is there. So,
I've gone for Take What You Want because not only does Taka hit the most insane note towards the end of it, and I don't think anyone will ever be able to. It's one of those ones, you know, when you have one in the car and you're like, I'm gonna go for it, and then you're like, oh god, I sound like I'm dying. And obviously it's got Loop for 5 seconds or somewhere on it, so like pure straight up banger.
Big up. Yeah, I'm going Jaded. Big up Alex Gaskarth. That song is one of the best bangers of this year. Banger playlist for years to come. I mean, I'm a sucker for like dual vocals and that sort of thing. Him and Taka together just sound insane. Like, just what a banger, basically.
What a band. Cheers, lads.
So, of course, shop.rocksound.tv, our Don Broco issue, which had just launched this time last week, now on sale, of course, in shops as well, online at shop.rocksound.tv. Absolutely amazing. Had a huge reaction. Again, we're so excited to be a part of this. It feels like, I don't know, the stars have just aligned with that band. You know, they're underdogs and it's been a long time coming. It just feels so exciting to be a part of this and give them their first ever full band cover. We heard Technology for the first time today. It was a trip, wasn't it?
Prepare yourselves.
Bloody hell. I mean, you know, these songs they've released, obviously all bangers, and we've bigged them up a lot on this show, but tip of the iceberg. Like, some of the stuff on this album is truly out there, and I'm calling it Album of the Year 2018, potentially. Shop.rocksound.tv, all 3 different limited edition covers. You can get the Everybody bundle, the Pretty bundle, the Technology bundle. Absolutely brilliant. Of course, involving cowboys and aliens and all kinds of different things. Suits, amazing. You get a pin badge, a hand signed poster print by the whole band, exclusive art card prints of each member, which are like trading cards. You get Don Broco vinyl sticker, all involved in all of those bundles. So much going on, so much to get involved with. The issue also includes features on Fall Out Boy, As It Is, Palais Royale, poster special from this year's Slam Dunk, loads and loads of stuff. So shop.rocksound.tv. Our Spotify playlists are also updated. The Rock Sound chart has been updated. BVB are at number 2 at the moment. Don Broco still reigning high at number 1 with T-Shirt Song. So follow us on Spotify with that. And our Scuzz TV show, a new episode is currently on Scuzz TV daily. So if you want to check out all the new bangers from bands involved in this month's magazine, check that out on daily on Scuzz. So interview 2, introducing a brand new feature for the Rock Sound podcast, our first ever Rock Sound classic album feature. So Newfound Glory, about a month ago, did their 20 years of pop punk tour, playing 2 of their albums with their now extremely impressive back catalogue per night. So I caught them at the Forum, and so did Jack, when they did Sticks and Stones and the self-titled. And I spoke to Chad and Jordan beforehand about the legendary Sticks and Stones, talking about its amazing legacy, its influence on so many bands, you know, bands you guys love out there, we love, are literally named after things in that album. The phenomenon of My Friends Over You, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, here we go. Chad Gilbert, Jordan Pundik from Newfound Glory on Sticks and Stones. So, Chad, Jordan, thank you so much for coming on the Rock Sound podcast.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
So, talk about Sticks and Stones. It's one of the most influential albums in the entire pop punk genre, and just music in general, really. Like, every band that we deal with, like, cites you guys, loves that album so much. So, I just wanted to delve into the process of it, really, and kind of like the era around it. Yeah. So, listening back to it now, just to kick off, like, how are you guys still very proud of it? How does it feel listening back?
Yeah, I mean, that was our first, like, really big kind of record for us. We had been touring a lot before that record, before we even got in the studio to record that record. So I feel like by the time we got to that point to record, we were, like, pretty, like, seasoned, you know, because we had been touring so much, and Self-Titled was out, and, you know, so I was still living at home with my parents. So.
Yeah, that was really, we actually moved for that record. That was like, we all lived at home, and then we all moved to Southern California. Some of us moved to San Diego. I moved to Los Angeles, but we made the album in San Diego. So we all lived down there, and literally, like, went from living at home to living in an apartment, recording the album. So it was definitely big time, symbolic record. Yeah. Big symbolic record for us, you know, personally too, because, you know, when you hear the "tell all my friends I'm dead, I'm leaving you this time, it's for good," you know, this is like, it wasn't like, you know, we were gone, that we moved out, we were out of our hometown, and we were like, made that big jump to like, all right, this is gonna be our career, we hope it works, if it doesn't, at least we know we had a good time, you know. So it was definitely a risk that we took, but I think you gotta take take those leaps, when you love something.
Oh, cool. So going off, because I say the success of the self-titled and obviously songs like Hit or Miss and things like that, like, did you feel was there a real excitement off of that and kind of the success and the interest that had brought to the band? Like, was there were you riding a buzz off that, or was it all just quite straightforward?
Well, I think it was riding a buzz, but I think for us, like, it was more about, how do we grow as a band and, stay a punk band, but also know that we aren't just a punk band. Like we wave the pop punk flag, which we're very proud of, but if you're a fan of New Found Glory and you listen to our records, it's not a pop punk album all the way through. It's like there's so many different style songs. Like, and Sticks and Stones alone has The Story So Far, Sunny, Head on Collision, songs that are far from punk rock songs. So for us it was like, well, we wanted to like dive into other areas and just, fast punk beats, but how do we grow organically instead of abandoning everything? So I think we saw what Hit or Miss was doing. Hit or Miss was like an accident. We weren't like trying to write a single, it just kind of like happened. So going into Sticks and Stones, we did have that in the back of our mind where we're like, oh, we hope there's a big song on the record and all this stuff, that like Hit or Miss that people connect to. And originally, the song that we thought was the song was It's Been a Summer.
No way.
Because My Friends Over You wasn't written. That song wasn't, like, we were in pre-production, there was a board with all the songs, and My Friends Over You did not exist.
Wow.
And it was the night before the last day. So it was like, we were in a room, we had this one practice studio in San Diego where we practice and write together. And the night before the last day, we all went to dinner and all went to the movies. And there was no pressure, just hanging out. I remember being in line with Cyrus, our drummer, and I got the riff in my head. Like the I was like, Cyrus. I was like, sing this. And Cyrus sang it, and I went, no. I go, dude, I gotta remember that. Voicemail didn't exist, like voice memos, because there weren't iPhones. So I remember the whole movie, like, don't forget that riff. Went home, did the music, and I remember coming in the next day, everyone was so bummed. I was like, we got to do this song. They're like, no, we're done. We have the record. I'm like, no, dude, we got to do this. No, I don't want to write anymore. Dude, listen to this riff. Played it. Like, play it. Neil was like, that's pretty good. Neil Avron was like, mind you, remember that the record's done. Like, we were about to go track everything. It's Been a Summer was everyone's favorite single, and I was like, come on. Everyone was like really pissed off. Ian was pissed. Everyone was just like, I don't want to do it. And then kind of argued about it, fought with him. We did it, and that's it. Made the record, and his first single, biggest song.
Crazy.
Last song we wrote wasn't supposed to be on the record.
Amazing.
That's it.
Wow. So when the album comes out then and that song explodes, like, you go straight onto Warped Tour, like, what did that feel like? That must have been amazing.
Dude, it was awesome.
Dude, it was huge. Yeah. Shows were huge. I mean, it was really cool. But it's almost like it just, like, when I think about those times, I feel like it just happened, And it went by so fast, everything goes by so quick. It's super weird. And now here we are 20 years or whatever.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that not only are we on a 20-year tour, but like how long ago Sticks and Stones came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even like thinking about Not Without a Fight to me is such a new album.
Yeah.
But that came out 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Amazing. Songs, go back into the songs as well, like Head on Collision as well is another huge moment on the album. Like, where did that come in? That was, I take it, so that was in the original set of songs.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Where did that come from?
I think just I don't know, we've always been in a big thing with us that I think got, because people, and this is no diss to anyone because I'm the same way for things that I don't know a lot about, but like, if you see something next to something else, it's easy for you to compare that to the thing it's next to. You associate it with it. So, for instance, like when we first started, we weren't a punk. We weren't considered a punk band. Like when Nothing Gold Can Stay came out, we were like played punk shows and stuff, but we were more of like a post kind of punk, kind of emo, kind of. And we only toured with Saves the Day, Piebald, played shows with the Get Up Kids. We were in this whole other world, and that's almost why a lot of the West Coast punk bands thought we came out of nowhere, because we were playing and doing hardcore tours and and emo, quote unquote emo tours before we ever even played and toured with a punk band. You know what I mean? Like, it was like we were doing all these. So I remember when we toured with Blink, we never were associated with Blink, but as soon as we toured with Blink, we're Newfound Glory and Blink. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's fine, because the cool thing about it was Blink was huge, and they gave us that tour, and we had amazing exposure, and it was awesome. We had this incredible exposure, made all fans, and now Blink fans became Newfound Glory fans too, and it was amazing. But I think as we recorded Sticks and Stones, it was important to bring other elements of where we came from musically, with songs like Head on Collision and Story So Far, which I see as more of those songs that are more post-punkish, hardcore, more like melodic than punk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's more the melodic side, where to show we weren't afraid of other rhythms or to show like that we had more influences than just the fast beat. But the cool thing is, if you're a Blink fan and you saw Newfound Glory, and we opened the door to like so much other new styles of music, which is really cool. Through those kind of songs, because it made you open your mind and go, oh, I like punk, but whoa, this song's different. I like this too. Who else sounds like this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Because a song like Singled Out as well, like the opening of that song is like, that's really experimental. Like, where did that come from? Was that again? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Where did that come from?
I don't remember.
I think it was just the guitar lead. We were like, what if we did that on this little thing? Oh, I know where it came from. I know where it's from.
Where?
Neil Avron, our producer, had this little keyboard.
Oh, right.
And when we were figuring out harmonies, when he would do vocals, if we needed to match a note, he would just have it there and be able to hit two notes and be like, okay, that's a good... we were able to check the harmony on the little keyboard before he tracked the vocal or testing it. And when Jordan, when he would mess with it, would hit a button. And I remember it was like that. It was like this drum thing.
Get all Wesley Willis on it.
It was all really funny. It would play these beats. So we're like, oh, let's do the lead of Singled Out. On
a little Casio keyboard.
So when you hear that,
that's right.
That's Neil's fake drum beat keyboard.
Little tiny
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. So
battery powered.
That's amazing. So like it's well, like you'd say, opening all these doors into other genres, and it's Sticks and Stones, this album, that you can't really slap a genre on in a way. Like a song like the hardcore influence of the album as well. I mean, was that kind of like, was that kind of coming with your background with like Shai Hulud and that sort of thing, and like
the jagga jagga like the stuff.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that was our goal. Was we were all into different types of music. We loved East Coast hardcore and how rhythmic and heavy it was, and then we loved West Coast punk and like the fast and cool riffs, the fast riffing, and then we loved melodic vocals like Get Up Kids and The Promise Ring, and Knapsack and old like emo style vocals. So we're like, let's put it all together, So forever like, oh, this is we should throw a little hardcore in that. I would scream on it, and all the hardcore community is all about looking out for each other and helping bands. So when we first started, the only shows we were on were hardcore shows. So because of my old band, so I'd be like, oh, I was in that band, can you hook us up? So we would get a lot of hardcore tours and shows because of the connection to the hardcore world. So screaming was like a natural like thing that we could add, and it wasn't forced. It's not like, oh, let's add a scream to sound hardcore. It's like, no, we're hardcore kids. We're rooted in it, and now we're just throwing it in there because it's what we like, or our history,
Yeah, definitely. It was that fun to work with as well, like between the two of you, vocal wise. Was it fun to kind of blend stuff in and like that sort of thing? And like, how was that? How was working the vocal booth together?
Well, I don't think we were ever in there together.
Oh, not together, but like...
I always thought it was a cool little thing that we did in our, back then when we were writing those kind of songs. Like no other bands were really doing that. So I always thought it was a cool thing to always throw in there. And then of course live, like it gets people pumped up. So
yeah, it's funny. I remember being on tour forever ago, opening for Green Day over here, and Neil Avron, the producer, hit me up and was like, "Hey, I'm working with this band on their full length called Fall Out Boy, and they really, really want you to scream on the record. They love Sticks and Stones." And I was like, Fall Out Boy? I'm like, oh yeah, I heard about their EP,
because the first record we're like, oh my gosh, this record's so cool. It sounds like Starting Line.
Yeah.
the black and blue cover. Want them on the cover.
Yeah, and I was like, cool, do it. And Pete, also came from like a hardcore thing, so they wanted me to scream on it. So we got the track and we scream, from under the cork tree that I scream.
Did you do it in the dressing room?
Yeah, in the dressing room. There's that song where the part goes, can't cover it up, can't cover it up. That extra scream wasn't there. That was us. I was in there and we just did it. So they only wanted me to scream the bridge part. And then when I heard it, I was like, yo, let's add this call and answer thing. So when we added, can't cover it up, we threw that in there just and sent it back. I guess Neil liked it, or they used it on one of the parts, or whatever it is. Or
wow,
we added that gang vocal.
That's insane.
Yeah, so I mean, it's cool to think that like our little thing, is like influenced, and that record obviously is like sold millions of copies,
Yeah.
So,
well, that's it. I mean, cause I was going to move on to the influence of the album on bands. I mean, obviously, like All Time Low are named after a lyric, and like Story So Far literally named after the song name. And you guys have influenced, Fall Out Boy, A Day to Remember Directly, all those bands. Like, how does that feel? That must be amazing.
We should have charged them.
Yeah.
We should have charged them. Should have you could name yourself. We just want, just 2%.
The scene's all about helping each other out, man.
Yeah.
That's what we were thinking the whole time.
No, it's cool. I think it's awesome, and it's definitely that means way more to me than like success and money goes away. Like everyone, whether you're rich or poor, you're having the same problem, a lot of the same problems, just different versions. But not everyone can say that they were able to like inspire people to pick up guitars and whatever it is, like be a part of their reason they started doing what they're doing.
Amazing.
So it's cool. That's like the the biggest compliment.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah, amazing. Like, I'd say just a couple last questions as well. You had guests on the album as well. Mark from Blink-182 played. Did he play bass on the whole song of Something Like a Personality, or was it?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Him.
Yeah.
Let me play bass.
Yeah, I'm gonna play bass on the record.
Yeah.
So he was just like, he loved the band, and he just wanted to come in.
He was just a huge New Found Glory fan back then, and had all of our records and loved it. And we were recording in San Diego, and he wanted to play bass. So we're like, come on in. He hung out.
Wow.
Picked it up, wrote a little bass line in the bridge, and played it. He also, when we toured with him, always wanted to play Sincerely Me. So every night live, most shows, he would do the do 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 do. Yeah, those guys are awesome, man. Like they, no matter what, like, whether their taste or interest or things change in bands or whatever it is, they like this band, that style, this more. They always help bands out. They always want to bring something they like to open. You know what I mean? Which is really cool. Which is like they did that for us, which was a really, really big deal.
And they're always the same guy. They're always the same guys. Like what you see is what you get kind of thing with them, which I've always loved that about them.
Oh man, that's so cool. Like it's as well because you had Tobe Morse as well from H2O and Bane, and also Matt and Dan from Alkaline Trio, like sort of lend some vocals as well. Yeah. Was that just kind of the same thing? As just they were just guys that's all your friends and they loved your band?
Yeah.
And
it was just Bane. Bane was a band that was on the Saves the Day, toured with Saves the Day around the same time. We opened for Saves the Day and Bane, and I knew those guys for years. And just happy accident, they were on tour opening for Hatebreed. Because Bane and Hatebreed went to the show. What are you guys doing now? You want to come sing gang vocals? Sure. They came, drove the van over and sang. Same thing with Trio. Alkaline Trio was playing at Cane's in San Diego, and Matt and Dan, we toured on Saves the Day tours, and we're like, and Blink was like, hey, you want to sing on this bridge? Just picked them up, and they came over and just did it. It wasn't like a thought out, we got to send them the tracks.
Yeah, the chance.
And the chance. Yeah, and they just were in town and just came over.
Amazing. So as well, like just in terms of the legacy of the album then, and say we've chatted about, bands literally naming themselves after things from the album and that sort of thing, like, does it feel to have made such a multi-genre, multi-layered album that's so revered? Like, how does it stand up to you guys in your own catalogue? Like, do you feel is it your favourite moment, or is it up there with your favourites? So is that a hard question? I don't know.
Sorry, what were you saying?
I was just going to say, like, for us, that was kind of like the beginning of it all for us, even though, self-titled, I don't want to take credit away from self-titled because that like did its own thing on its own, but when Sticks and Stones came out and My Friends Over You and us touring constantly and doing all this crazy stuff, like that was like sort of the pinnacle, if you will.
I think for me, compared to other records, I don't, that's one thing I'm grateful for, is we have fans that love all the albums. And I think that, I guess the way I would see it is how you pick a friend. Like, you probably have lots of friends, right?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
You look like a nice boy.
And there's probably times in your day where you would prefer to hang out with one more than the other.
Could be your dog.
Like, you probably have a friend you like going to the movies with, or you might have a friend you like going to the bar with, or whatever it is. I think that's how I see our records, is that, yeah, I love Sticks and Stones, but also it depends, because sometimes I really like playing Coming Home for the right mood or the right time, or it's not about one better than the other. They just all have sort of something you value different about them.
Yeah, just some absolutely amazing stories from what's just an absolute classic. I mean, like the Fall Out Boy stuff and the Blink stuff and My Friends Over You Nearly Not Happening. Crazy. Jack?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's I've never seen New Found Glory as the band to have so many incredible anecdotes. I always thought it's just like straight down the middle, just doing what they do. But like that FOB stuff is it's such a brilliant little Easter egg. But I think the My Friends Over You stuff's mad. Like, and imagine sitting through. Like, imagine if Chad had to sit through something like Lord of the Rings, like Return.
In his head, just don't forget it.
Especially like Return of the King, where it's like it keeps looking like it's going to finish, and you start standing up, and it just keeps going.
Yeah, with the riff going around. Yeah.
But yeah, like the fact that song, which everyone knows word to, like my gran knew the words to that.
Can you imagine if they'd just been like, no, Chad, shut up, we're not doing another song?
Yeah.
Which
imagine if that had happened. My Friends Over You is probably the song that got me into pop punk.
But also them like thinking, because they did used to play hardcore shows, that was the thing. Like Chad's got a mass connection to Shai Hulud, and all the early shows weren't pop punk, and like for a band who are the definitive name in that now, to think that they were like, oh well, we're not really that band either. It's a really interesting thing to see. I find it fascinating hearing bands define themselves.
Yeah, it's insane, for like I said, like All Time Low to be named after, a line in Head On Collision, and the Story So Far to literally be named after the song, it's insane. Like, it just, that album and that band's influence just spreads everywhere. And like Tamsin said, that was literally a gateway into the genre. It's crazy. What a band. Huge shout out to those guys for, filling us in on so many amazing things. And yeah, just long live New Found Glory, basically. So at shop.roxanne.tv, a reminder that our Don Broco bundles are very much on sale online at shop.roxanne.tv and in stores across the nation right now. You can get the Everybody bundle, the Pretty bundle, or the Technology bundle. All include pin badges, hand signed poster prints, exclusive art card prints of each member, Don Broco vinyl sticker. So much going on. To say, we'll have a full review of Ali Pali next week. So excited, so much to get involved with. So shop.roxanne.tv, buy them all up, let us know what your favourite things are, and just, help us support this amazing kind of moment for rock music in general. Huge shout out. Spotify players, of course, follow us on Spotify for an updated rock sound chart. Don Broco, of course, being at the top with T-Shirt Song. And our Scuzz TV show is on daily on Scuzz. If you want to check out all the new bangers from bands involved in the current magazine, check it out on daily on Scuzz. So we come to an end.
Again.
Again.
But we will be back again, so it's fine.
We will be back again.
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be good. So, yeah, Don Broco Saturday. We'll talk about that next week. We'll have a good time, I'm sure. And, yeah, we'll see you next week.
See you. Love you.
Bye.
I mean, I'm not one to just offend people, but fuck them. All of them, just fuck them to death. I say as I'm sat Alan screwing a bedpost.
Yeah.
Fuck you! I'm the king of everything. Screw. Where's F? There's a missing F.
Oh, God.
IKEA.
Dude, you know that, Ben? I mean, I know, you know, when there's like there's supposed to be 10 washers and there's only 9. Oh,
There's only 9.
you get one wobbly leg.
There was actually 12. They'd given you a spare one, but somehow you still end up with 9.
I know. I've got to stop sitting on these things.
If anyone was paying attention, that math's terrible. That's why I'm in a band. And broke.
So
I have $10,000 in my check. I spent $11,000. How much do I have left?
It's like the first time you grow the courage to shave your balls and all your pubes off, and you look down and you go, "Holy fuck, my dick is at least an inch bigger than I thought it was." And that's exactly how this feels. Feels big-ish.
You won't believe what I just did.
Wow.
I realized that I put the legs on the wrong side because the inside screws were on the outside. So I took them off to put them back on again, and then I just screwed them back on the same way.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell us you were shaving your balls this whole
yeah,
time.
that's what I thought. Yeah.
I did one side on the 3 setting and the other side on the 4 setting. So now they look a little weird. But it's like, it's not so noticeable that you're like, the hair's longer on one side. It's just like uncomfortable looking.
Yeah.
Why is only my left nostril getting tickled, Danny? Don't worry about it.